Let's get right to Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of Missouri. Great to have you on the program today. The last couple of days, America got to see quite a bit. I first just want to get your top line thoughts on what we're watching and what you think is to come in the defense of Donald Trump.
Well, I think what we're watching is a total kangaroo court. It is an illegitimate proceeding. It is unconstitutional. If you want to see the proof of that, Harris, just look at what happened last night when Senator Mike Lee pointed out that the House managers had blatantly misquoted him. He tried to get it stricken from the record, and what ensued was chaos on the Senate floor as Senator Leahy first ordered a vote, then stopped the vote in the middle because Chuck Schumer intervened to ask him, oh, wait a minute, don't do the vote. Total chaos and pandemonium. They are making this up as they go along. It's totally unconstitutional, and it is incredibly selfish on the part of the Democrats who are pursuing their own personal political vendettas here. You know, they need to take seriously their oath of office and start focusing on the American people and doing what is good for them, not just what pleases the Democrats in this moment. And this is a total kangaroo trial.
Senator Hawley, there has been some strong reaction, as you might expect, from the other side of the political aisle. Let's take a look at that, and then I'll come right back to you. Senator Elizabeth Warren said yesterday, here's the quote, "The Republicans who stand with Donald Trump are his enablers, and they must be stopped." Hillary Clinton tweeted this, "If Senate Republicans fail to convict Donald Trump, it won't be because the facts were with him or his lawyers mounted a competent defense. It will be because the jury includes his co-conspirators." What's your reply?
Oh, that's absolutely absurd. It's absolutely absurd and offensive. And listen, they have no evidence here that, first of all, that this trial is constitutional because the Constitution doesn't permit them to do what they're trying to do. They're trying to pursue a personal political vendetta against an ex-president and really against 74 million people who voted for him. And what you see in the comments of Senator Warren and people like Hillary Clinton is they want to silence and write out of American politics half of this country. And they're trying to use an illegitimate proceeding to do that. It is totally inappropriate. It is totally unconstitutional. And it's offensive to the American people. I mean, listen, Harris, right now in my state, we can't get enough vaccine to vaccinate the folks in my state. Right now, our small businesses are in crisis. This is what the Democrats want to do with their time. It's wrong.
You know, Senator Hawley, we have that in states around the union. We're feeling some of what you described on the East Coast as well. I do want to just get to this real quickly. ABC correspondent Terry Moran said this. Watch.
He has the Republican Party as a personalized power like we haven't seen. It's a Caudillo, it's a Caesar, it's a Fuhrer. We don't see that in this country. We do now.
Is the Republican Party belonging solely to Donald Trump, Senator Hawley?
No, that's absurd. The Republican Party, if it belongs to anybody, belongs to the voters, the people who sent us here. That's who I'm accountable to. I've taken an oath to uphold the Constitution and also to serve the people of my state. I noticed that he used the word Fuhrer, of course, because the media can't go 1 second, the left-wing media, without comparing Republican voters to Nazis and comparing President Trump to Hitler. I mean, you talk about offensive and disgusting. And that just shows you that's what this trial is about. This kangaroo court is about trying to delegitimize half the American electorate. While Americans are suffering, while we're in the depths of a pandemic, this is what the Democrats are doing, pursuing a personal political vendetta, and it is totally wrong, and they're going to have to be accountable for it at the polls.
You know, it's interesting to hear everybody talking the way that they are with the rhetoric and that offensive rhetoric that you just mentioned and calling that out. I just wonder, what is the temperature in the room? How are you all going to get together and do legislation for the American people if it looks like this? A real quick answer, and then we're going to move on.
I don't know, and right now the problem is the Democrats don't seem interested in doing anything for the American people. They're only interested in their political vendettas. They're not interested in helping at all, and I think that's why people in my state, at least, are so upset.
Well, that's not how President Joe Biden said it was going to be. Let's get to this. A growing number of Republicans are scoffing at Democrat Congressman Eric Swalwell's role, Senator, as a House impeachment manager, given the scandal over his past relationship with a suspected Chinese spy. Your colleague, Senator Rand Paul, tweeted this. "This afternoon, we have been lectured to by Eric Swalwell, a guy accused of consorting with a Chinese spy. How appropriate." Senator Hawley, your reaction.
Yeah, I will say that it's an awfully aggressive and in-your-face move by the House Democrats to send somebody who is apparently the subject of an espionage investigation, or was, who's tied up in a Chinese espionage ring. In terms of the reports are that the Chinese espionage infiltrated his office, for heaven's sake. He's still sitting on the Intelligence Committee. Nancy Pelosi won't take any action against him, and now he's an impeachment manager. I think it just goes back to show you this is a kangaroo proceeding. These folks have no respect for the Senate, no respect for the impeachment trial as it's supposed to go on. John Roberts is supposed to be here. Instead, we have Pat Leahy in the chair, making it up as he goes along. The whole thing is a sham. It is a sham, and it is a disgrace, and it's time for it to end.
One more on this, and then I want to get to the incident that happened at your home. But, you know, I just want to fact check something, because Senator Hawley, people are saying that you're sitting apart from everybody else during these proceedings. You're up in kind of another section. And I know some of your fellow Republicans have said when they watch the videos that they've seen the last couple of days, they cry. What has been your reaction, and why are you seated apart, if in fact that's the case?
Well, I'm sitting where senators are allowed and designated to sit, and I have been there for the entire trial, Harris, with my notes, with my briefs, and I'm going to continue to be. And in terms of what we're seeing is what we lived through. It's what my staff lived through, and it's horrific. And the criminals who did it ought to be prosecuted, as they are being, and ought to be given the full measure of the law. And by the way, it would be nice to hear some Democrats say that the same should happen for everybody who has rioted in this country, everybody who has shot cops, everybody who has burned buildings. If you riot, if you break the law, you're a criminal, and you should be prosecuted. But you know, you don't hear that out of my Democrat colleagues for anything other than when it involves Donald Trump. So listen, you're not going to get anything but condemnation from me for what happened with those criminals at the Capitol on January 6th. But that doesn't make this trial any legitimate, any more legitimate than it is, which is totally illegitimate, no basis in the Constitution.
I read your wife's op-ed. Senator, she recently filed a criminal complaint after a group of protesters gathered outside your home in the middle of the night, shouting through bullhorns. We covered this when it happened. Your wife was home alone that night with your newborn daughter. She writes in an op-ed, "You can agree or disagree with my husband's politics, and protests at office buildings are both appropriate and protected by the First Amendment. But the First Amendment also allows states and local governments to protect their citizens from harassment and to prescribe reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on protest-like events." Senator, first of all, so glad everybody's okay in your household. Congrats on the newborn baby. And what is your response to your wife putting her thoughts in an op-ed?
Well, she's a tough woman, and she was there alone that night. She asked those groups of protesters who came screaming and shouting and harassing, she asked them to leave. Not only did they not leave, Harris, they came up onto the property. They came to her door, our door, pounded on the door, shouted, "Come out, come out, come out." She was afraid to move from where she was. Eventually, police responded, which we're grateful for, but for much of that time, she was there completely alone with our newborn child. And you know, this is just the kind of behavior that the left engages in all the time, and excuses. I haven't heard a word from a Senate Democrat condemning this behavior, condemning those kind of aggressive, harassing tactics. They went there that night to harass and intimidate. They threatened to come back repeatedly. They said we could come back at any time. The whole purpose was to try to intimidate and terrorize my wife. Democrats don't have a word to say about that. They're fine with that, so long as it's happening to advance causes that they believe in, and that's just wrong.
Senator Hawley, I know that there are some friends among you across the political aisle. I would hope that they would reach across in this instance and give you their best. It's tough, the positions that you're all in. Thank you for serving in this way, and thanks for being on the program.
Thanks for having me.